Welcome to the law, your money, and you. I'm Roberta Saphire, an attorney in Sharon, Massachusetts.
And I'm Camille Barron, a financial coordinator also in Sharon, Massachusetts. You know, Roberta, we've had several shows that have to do with people who might have a need to put an insurance claim or even bring suit against someone else for some damage of some sort. And this has always been about private, people or private businesses. But more and more, the same type of question comes up from time to time with either cities or towns or state governments, even the federal government too.
You got a double topic there.
Yeah.
Do you know that?
Yeah.
You got sovereign immunity, which means can I sue a state?
Yeah.
And then you got can I bring a lawsuit? You know, people that are, well, you know something, why don't we just get into our guest? But our guest today is more than our guest. We have an advisory board, and Emily Smith Lee, who's a well-known attorney in these parts, is our chair. And we sling around this stuff really on a regular basis as to what we should talk about on the show and this and that. So this is sort of a behind-the-scenes free-for-all. So Emily, welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. It's great to be back.
But you know, I don't think we've ever really asked you, and we've got a few emails. Tell us more about Emily Smith Lee. So first tell the guests about that and then go right into what you're going to talk about.
So I run a small law firm here in Sharon. We practice employment law, business litigation, and a little bit of estate planning. I have lived in Sharon since 2001. I believe that's true.
16 years. What about your children? Let's hear.
So my oldest daughter is a junior at Columbia University. My youngest is a senior at Sharon High School. So we are filling out college applications, getting ready for that next step.
But he's very musical too.
That's right.
If anybody's heard of, I don't think it's terrible to do a plug for a teenager. Defret.
That's right.
You know, I brought his DVD to Arizona, and my teenage grandchildren love it.
Excellent, excellent. Well, they've got a few new pieces now, so maybe they'll be
we
releasing another CD.
We went too and lasted through the music. But, you know, it's really great. I mean, that's wonderful to be talented. But what Camille
I'm not sure where
up,
he gets it, but
huh?
Not sure where he gets it.
Oh, you're not musical?
Not to the way he is.
Oh. Are you his real mother?
I am his real mother.
Okay.
I was there.
I
can vouch, really.
Sometimes I say to the kids, so that's your real father, you know. But anyway, and so people want to, some people are lawsuit happy, but they don't realize they have to put out the costs. And then a lot of people think, oh, I'm going to sue the town or the city. Yeah. Tell us the different things with suing towns, cities, government, federal, state.
Sure. So there's two things you mentioned. One is what people do and don't understand about filing a lawsuit. We spend a lot of time fielding phone calls from people who don't have claims and those who do. So I'd love to talk about that as well. Mm-hmm. The sovereign immunity, one of the things that people don't understand is not everybody can be sued. The concept of sovereign immunity is that you can't sue the government unless they have consented to it.
Where did they get the word sovereign from?
It's a holdover from British common law.
I knew that.
Yes.
How can a government consent to be sued?
Yeah.
So usually by statute. You know, it's not when I say something like that, people imagine, oh, I've got to go ask permission to sue the government. That's not what it is. Usually they give advance permission.
Yeah. Tell them the difference between a statute and this sovereign or common law, or whatever it is. That's a double.
So the statutes are the bills, the laws that legislative branches vote on, pass, governors or presidents sign. The common law is the law that sort of evolves by virtue of the courts making decisions. Mm-hmm. So the most commonly known idea, negligence, right? Everybody gets that. Somebody's negligent and they hurt you. That's a common law theory, not a statutory theory. Mm-hmm. But what the governments will do, the sovereigns, if you will, there are statutes. For example, there's a law called the Massachusetts Tort Claims Act, where the legislature has said, okay, you can sue us for certain kinds of torts. A tort is like negligence. There are steps you have to follow, but that's out there. Mm-hmm. It gets dicier when you start talking about employment issues. because it's not, those don't fit under that statute. You kind of have to hunt a
Tell
little
me,
harder.
unless you give, because you said there's certain things you have to give notice. Now, if it's, if it's, say, a 30-day notice and you give a 31-day notice, you're out, or something like that?
No, you've got to give notice and allow them a particular period of time to respond. And that, you know, without getting into the technicalities, people should be aware of that because the statute of limitations on their claims continues to run. So if you want to sue me for negligence, you can run into court the day before the statute of limitations runs.
Oh, really?
And you're good. If I'm the state and you need to go through this presentment exercise, you need to build that time in,
Okay.
if that makes sense.
Well, let's think about a couple of examples. One is very large and one is much smaller, but they're both relevant. So somebody not too long ago ran or drove and there was a big pothole in the street.
There's a lot of potholes.
And so the front end of the car had some damage. And they were wondering, well, is it the responsibility of the city or town to maintain the streets so that when I drive, I don't get front end damage and have to spend money?
Right.
The other end of the spectrum, very large, Flint, Michigan, with the lead poisoning in the water. But they both are the same principle, I think. What recourse does a consumer have?
Right.
Right?
Right, and as always, there's two parts to that question. There's the sovereign immunity part, and if it falls under the Tort Claims Act of the state, you're probably okay on that. And then the other question, which is the same question in private lawsuits, is what is negligence?
Yeah.
Which really boils down to, should they have had a responsibility to be more careful than they were?
And it doesn't
So-
matter the reason why something happened. The reason why the water was full of lead.
Oh, sure.
Because they were trying to, they made a different choice for a source of water in order to be more economical, or there was work being done and the weather was freezing and warm and these potholes formed.
I think when
No,
they
it very
have
much
nails,
matters
they
why it
hit
happens.
Wasn't it like a cover-up type of thing? So that's worse than negligence.
And I
That's a
believe,
criminal.
yeah,
That
I
could be a
believe there are
criminal thing.
many lawsuits in the pipeline.
Now, does every state
Not
have
to use
its
a
own
pipeline.
pipeline? Does every state have its own tort act? Like, if they don't have it, does that mean you can't sue them?
Correct. But I think almost every state does. I can't speak outside of Massachusetts, but it's pretty common.
That's interesting.
So like the case of somebody going into the pothole and the front end
Yeah.
damage.
So that's where your question, does it matter why it happened? Absolutely. You know, if in the Flint, Michigan situation, the question is, what would a reasonable person have done? How careful would a reasonable person have been in the selection of the water supply, maintenance, inspection of the pipes, on down the line? You know, if a tree falls on a road and causes some damage that somebody drives into 5 minutes later, that's not going to be negligence.
Right.
Right?
Yes, somebody asked me that if a tree falls in a forest, is it still the husband's fault?
Absolutely.
Okay, so we got
By
that
statute,
straightened out.
by statute.
By statute, yeah. No, that's something, sorry.
No, that's okay. I mean, but these are, it's not just suing the state, these are, it surprises me a lot of times how much people don't know about the legal process. And of course, it shouldn't surprise me because we don't go around suing each other
Right.
in our day-to-day lives until something happens, you have a bad outcome at work, you get hurt. So, and it's not just the state, the negligence concepts apply the same way. I think people don't understand a lot about how lawsuits work and whether it's worth it to bring one.
What do you mean?
So we take a lot of calls from people who've had terrible, terrible treatment at work. Sometimes it's clearly illegal. Sometimes it's clearly not illegal. Most of the time, it's somewhere in the middle. You know, it's a kind of he said, she said situation. Was it discrimination? Was it not? And I think people sometimes have an idea that there's a big pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. The reality is, you know, it's a longer process than you think. You rarely get more than you deserve.
Do you even get what you deserve?
And you frequently don't even get what you deserve. So there's cost to consider, there's time to consider, And then there's the nuts and bolts of how a lawsuit works that I think people are just very unfamiliar with. You watch on TV and, you know, from minute 1 to minute 59, an entire situation is resolved.
Yeah, not like that.
No, no, not at all. And I think the toughest thing that people have, that people struggle with, is not being clear what's illegal.
Oh.
So, for example, your question, what is negligence? You know, all bad things do not have a bad guy.
That's a good expression.
Yes, I just made it up just now.
I like that. I'm going to use that.
And some bad things, there's some behaviors that are terrible, like workplace bullying, like making unfair and arbitrary decisions about your employees. Those are terrible management behaviors, but they're not illegal.
Yeah. So in a case like the going over the pothole, if it, let's say that pothole was there for a week or two, would that suggest that maybe the town or the city would have, they should have known and done something to repair or at least diverted the
They
traffic?
usually say no or should have known. The
Right.
question is a week enough? Is
So
it
that's-
well-traveled, or is it a street that nobody goes on?
Right. So I'm going to give you a general answer because I don't
Yeah.
know the specific answer because I haven't sued people over
Yeah.
potholes lately. In general, you look at the standard of care of others who do the same thing. So if you were a doctor, what do reasonable doctors with this amount of experience, how would they treat that situation? So it kind of depends on what the industry practice is,
Yeah.
if you will,
Yeah.
for responding to potholes. I mean, we drive around, there are potholes that stay open a long, long time.
Yeah.
So it could be. That would be the
It all
answer.
depends.
Yeah.
It's always,
Yeah.
anything like
Oh
this,
yeah,
it
what was it that
depends.
they said to me? Please don't say it all depends.
But
Oh,
it does.
what did he say? Because everybody in the room was wearing them or something. We just, to be behind the scenes, we were before the men's club. They have about 600 members or something. There must have been 150, 200 people there. So they were asking different questions. Camille is sort of our insurance expert, and I'm sort of the legal expert, but we tell them we really can direct you to the real experts, but we have a general idea. So you say, this depends on this, and which it does. So remember when he said, please don't say it depends because most of the people here wear them. that was, you know, they still have, some of them still have a sense of humor.
Excellent.
In fact, we're going to do a show there
Excellent.
in March. Yeah, but it's, you know what's interesting too, this is kind of like behind the scenes and talking, what we talk about at the advisory board, to
Yep.
digress a little, which we can on this. But all the different topics, like at that event we had, and you went through all the topics that we have covered, which even I was impressed. And Camille brought with us like 5 pages, and there's like 7 or 8 topics on each page. And I'm going, my God, how can you cover them all? It depends what age group you're in.
Yep.
And then even in the age group, it depends whether they're business people or retired people, what their interests are. Oh, I said depends. What their interests are. Like, they don't want to hear about what's good for financial literacy for teenagers and this and that. But you know what we said to them? You should be. You should be, because that's the future. That's the future. Some of them were interested in grandkids, like, you know, all the scams. Remember we were talking about scams and what's the latest scam, and I know you could talk for 20 hours on scams, but this, the federal government puts out this, all this stuff about scams, including grandchildren, and it's funny how grandparents
Oh, you mean the
don't know
emails
kids.
that say, I'm stuck in London and I lost
Phone
my
calls.
wallet? Or,
Phone calls.
Yep.
I know the local banks have told us about it, but they keep an eye. That's what's good about a local bank. They know you, and so if you go in and you say, I got to send it to the grandchild, well, what about your son? You know, well, they said not to tell my son. No, well, how's your relationship? And they'll call them up, and they find out it's a scam. But that's interesting. So that's something we continue to do. But anyway.
But you're absolutely right about sort of different people paying attention, being interested in different things. I mean, the tricky part about litigation is nobody plans for that.
Right.
right?
Yeah.
You don't plan to get sued, you don't plan to lose your job
Yeah.
and have a claim.
Yeah.
And so, something like estate planning, you could run a show on estate planning, and anybody who's planning for that could watch it.
Right.
Yeah,
but it's kind of random when this stuff
topic here
happens.
that you thought about between the sovereign immunity and people who bring lawsuits, that's pretty good for any age, except, you know what's interesting too on the other spectrum is the people who should bring a claim
Yep.
and figure, oh, well, they can't do anything about it. What do you have to say to those people?
I think if they've got a good claim, I think back up a step, people need to understand there's different ways of paying for legal services. The traditional way where you get a bill every month and it's staggering and you're very unhappy about it, but a lot of plaintiffs' lawyers, and plaintiffs being the people bringing the lawsuit, will do those things on a contingent fee basis, in full or in part. So I hear people call saying, I don't know, we're up against this big company, how can we ever win? The truth is, there are ways, if you've got a good claim, to get it brought forward without breaking the bank.
If you've got a good claim.
If you've got a good claim.
And there was this old lawyer when I first started practicing law that said to us, the successful practice of law is based on the cases you don't take.
That's true.
That is probably true. I mean, the way people need to think about it is if you have a righteous grievance and you're owed $5,000, you probably wouldn't spend $20,000 in legal fees to get that $5,000. And unfortunately, that means you're going to have a hard time finding an attorney to take that claim on a contingent fee basis.
Right.
The good news that people need to know, though, is the small claims limit in Massachusetts has been raised in previous years. It's $7,000.
Oh, 7,000?
So a lot of
I remember when it was
these,
100.
yeah, a lot of these claims that are really too small, and I think that that's part of why it was raised, because it's hard in the marketplace to find a lawyer to take a case under $7,000, but people can do it themselves
Do it themselves.
in small claims court. And there's there's so many better resources online than there used to
Yeah.
be for consumers to understand what claims they might have and how they should pursue them.
And would that apply to, getting back to sovereign immunity, would that also apply to government? Would somebody still have that $7,000
Sure, absolutely.
small claim
Really?
court
You
option?
can bring...
It's just a cap on the size of the claim. I mean, the thing that I would caution if people are suing a government in small claims court is it's a little harder to navigate the sovereign immunity issues without an attorney than it is to go in and litigate a simple unpaid wages claim.
Are you talking like a board, like say either, like the towns have boards of selectmen or finance committee or something like that? Do they fall under the sovereign immunity?
That's a great question. I believe so. However, there's also the super confusing part of this is there are some instances in which you can and some instances in which you can't sue individual officials as opposed to the town.
Well, you could sue them as a board, but how
I don't
do
think you can sue them
as
as a board. I think you
Yeah.
can either sue the municipality or the individual officers, agents.
Don't
And sometimes you can only do one and
Oh,
sometimes
yeah.
you can
So
only
if
do
you
the
sue
other.
an individual officer or agent, if they have to pay up, would the municipality reimburse them?
Usually. Usually that's in either the bylaws or the charter. That's a pretty typical provision.
Well, that's a better answer than it depends.
It's just a more specific version of it depends. Because
Yeah,
it does, right,
yeah,
if it's
that-
written in, but it usually is.
That's-
Just like in companies, usually the board of directors is indemnified by the company.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting, but a lot of people should be interested in this, that they can't sue this, they can't sue that.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. But on another topic, going back, we wanted to talk about the activity books.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so we got here. These are a few different towns. We have Bedford, Wakeville, and Auburn are at the printers now, and these people are so excited about, going to the schools, and they'll be able to show them that police officers are our friends. And the sad part about it, there is a sad part, is that some of the police people don't realize police officers put their lives on the line every day. Like one of these towns, Auburn, the young fellow, he got shot while sitting in his car.
Wow.
That's very
And
sad.
he's dead. It's
This
really
is
very sad.
To show our viewers, we've talked about it several times, but for our viewers who may not have seen the activity coloring book that we, excuse me, the Lawyer Money and You produced, and this is done for police departments anywhere, free of charge. It's supported by grants and donations. And excuse me, the title "Police Officers Are Our Friends" is designed to get children to view their police officers in a positive light and not to fear them or view them as their enemies, with the thought being that the younger that we instill these positive
Right.
attitudes, the more likely they are to stick. And we've gotten a phenomenal
Yeah.
response to this. How many towns already have requested?
23, plus we have Greensboro, North Carolina, some of them. We have them from the western part of the state. And, you know, I go to Arizona a lot, so now they're interested. It's a wonderful, wonderful, we have a lot of interns now, too, that are happy to work on that. Our blog is getting going. And what else have we been doing?
The United Nations Model
Oh, I
UN.
forgot. Oh, shame on me. We are partnering with the Sharon High School Model UN Club.
And by the way, Emily's son, was it your son?
My daughter.
Her daughter was part of
Sharon
that.
Model UN.
Oh,
Yep.
so she must have been the beginning with
Yeah.
Gotham Goyle.
Sounds right. Yep.
Yeah, and we are partnering with them. Now, this will air at one time or other, but the main thing is that, like, we help the financial literacy come in. We've done them with the cyberbullying. In fact, the blog, it's restarted. It's going to be starting with the cyberbullying. But we're partnering with the United Nations Club, which is fantastic, especially in what's going on in the world today. And what they do at these conferences is they have like classrooms and they discuss world issues and they invite other clubs. And these United Nations clubs I think they're throughout the country.
Yep.
And they have contests and everything. So we're helping them raise funds. And it's so wonderful. We're going to be part of that. We have a table that day. We got them a wonderful speaker. We got him Dave Clifton,
Nice.
who is Rotary. Rotary, I think, is the only organization that has a seat on the United Nations.
I didn't know they were the only one, really?
Yeah,
know that.
I think they're the only one. And please, I'm sure I'll get a million emails, and she'll get the phone calls if I'm wrong. But they're the only ones that have the seat. And Dave who's really very active in Rotary and everything. Rotary is an international organization, but he was at the United Nations when the top CNN people they have, one of which was Razia Jan, who developed the school in Afghanistan. He was there. I think he helped present an award to her at the United Nations. So I mean, we got it growing in our town here, and wherever people see our show, they should look in and see if their school has it too.
Absolutely. So is the club fundraising for an upcoming competition?
Right.
Okay.
But
Do we know what countries they're representing?
could-
Or
Oh, well, that's interesting. Yeah, well, they're doing a program thing. We're going to be going into, they could say you've got to be kidding, we're going into that so fast. But where we are, it's diversity. Diversity is the theme, diversity is the
Yep.
key. In our small town, we have 80 different countries or more, but they have Russia, they have India, they have the United States. I'm sure it's for all countries, but it's coming up, and we're happy to take people's donations. All the money's going to them, because this is a nice cause. But we're on You've Got to Be Kidding. But getting back to your topic, which we can do, this is what we do at our meetings. We're on You've Got to Be Kidding. You had a story you were telling us about a lawsuit, where they bring with your client?
Yes. Yes.
Tell our
So,
viewers.
in the category of among the things that you probably shouldn't bring a lawsuit for,
Yeah.
we have a client
laughing
who
already.
was recently sued arising out of basically a business relationship gone bad. And among the claims in the lawsuit against him was a claim for conversion, which is the civil version of theft, because they took 6 rolls of toilet paper from the office.
Say
when
that
they
again.
left.
They took what?
6 rolls of toilet paper.
You've got to be
You've
kidding.
got to be
I'm
kidding.
not kidding you. We are planning our responsive pleading. We may be serving it along with a Costco-sized container of toilet paper just to make it right.
That's a good. You've got to be kidding. I have another thing for one of the shows
Oh, yeah.
for the children out there and grandchildren. If you send us in, we're looking for a name for the bear. A name for the bear. This little bear
And he says, "Hug me."
He says, "Hug me." So this
Is it a male or female, or doesn't it matter?
He's anything you want him to be. It's a he, she, and it. Huh. So we're looking for a beer name, and if whoever comes up with it, maybe we can give him a little prize. But anyway, that's really winding up. Thank you for being our chairperson,
You're very welcome.
and thank you for always being there. And we love having you on the show. The viewers love having you on the show. And
We always
this is
learn
good.
something every time you're
I
here.
always learn something new. There
Sometimes
was one-
something not very important, like toilet paper.
yeah, when you did the show on mortgages,
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many cable stations themselves were waiting for the episode there. But you know there was a toilet paper factory in Ohio. They got, there was I forget the jokes. There was a fire and they got wiped out.
Oh, jeez.
I know.
You
I
gotta
didn't
be
tell it
kidding.
right. Yeah, I
I
am
think we're
kidding.
going to wrap
But
things
that's
up
it.
now.
Yeah, you
And
got to be kidding.
thank you so
Dad.
much, Emily
Thank you.
Smithley.
Oh, yes,
and,
thank you.
You've done wonders to support our cause in many ways, and we thank you. We really appreciate working with you. So
And we'll not
viewers,
see her again. She'll be back.
yeah, she'll be
She's not
back. She's
going
welcome
anywhere.
anytime without an invitation. So viewers, thank you so much for watching. Please remember that we are doing a lot of good in the community besides having this wonderful show. And if you'd like to be part of our group, join us. If you have an hour a week or 10 hours a week, we'd love to have you. And if you'd like to make a donation, we'd really appreciate that too. We are a 501c3 nonprofit. Please let us hear from you if you'd like to have any particular topics covered, or if you have any feedback, any other ideas. Because remember, this is your show, the law, your money, and you.